Sandeep Reddy Vanga has directed some of the most cinematic yet controversial films of the last few years, and every single time the man making it all possible behind the scenes has been his brother, Pranay Reddy Vanga. And with every movie, this duo of brothers have created magic on screen. In a lot of ways, they remind me of the Dhar brothers. Even though Aditya Dhar does all the writing and directing, it's Lokesh Dhar taking care of production. And many won't know this, but he was the one who suggested casting Ranveer Singh for Dhurandhar.
Aditya, when he writes, he never writes with the actors in mind. My first thing to Aditya was, for the lead, Ranveer would be great.
Recently, Pranay Reddy Vanga came on a podcast and cleared up a lot of things that most people were only guessing about. And by the end of this video, you will see why I am calling Sandeep Reddy Vanga fearless. He obsesses over control to a degree that should sound insane. He fights back publicly against criticism instead of staying quiet, and he let some of the best actors in the country walk away from his biggest film ever. Because when it comes to cinema, there is no compromise for him. It's either his way or the bye-bye way. In this video, I'm going to walk through every single casting rumor around Spirit that's been driving fans crazy for over a year and tell you exactly what happens after this movie wraps. Then we will get into how the Vanga brothers handle criticism, the success of Animal, and the one detail about how Sandeep Reddy Vanga actually works on set that once you hear it explains pretty much everything else in this video. Quick disclaimer before we start, the podcast I am referring to in this video is in Telugu and I can't read, write, speak or understand that language. Many of you won't watch this podcast due to language reasons, but I will try my best to put everything into perspective. I am basing all of this off after transcribing the video, so if for some reason the transcription is incorrect or I understood incorrectly, drop it in the comments. Let's start with the much anticipated update, the one related to Spirit.
बचपन से मेरी एक बुरी आदत है.
What?
Right from my childhood, I just have one bad habit.
Spirit is the biggest bet of their careers so far. It stars Prabhas, it's been positioned as a true pan-world release across multiple languages, and it's coming from a director who just delivered one of the biggest hits in recent years. Every casting change on this film has been picked apart by fans for well over a year now. 3 separate storylines have run wild on social media with half-confirmed reports and conflicting rumors. This podcast is the first time the entire picture gets laid out in detail by someone who was inside the production room. So let's go through all 3 one at a time. First, the Deepika Padukone thread, because this is the biggest reveal in the whole interview and I want to build up to it properly instead of rushing through it. By now, most of you already know that Deepika Padukone was originally part of Spirit, and after a series of back and forth discussions, she was out of the film. And this wasn't some quick decision made on a whim by either side. According to Pranay, Deepika spent well over a year working through the script and she was genuinely interested in the role. This wasn't a passing conversation.
Any one thing that is non-negotiable for you when you are making a film?
Casting.
Sandeep has said in multiple interviews that casting is non-negotiable for him, that he would go to extreme lengths to get the exact actor he wants, because in his mind, casting isn't just about getting a great performer, it's about finding someone who naturally embodies the soul of the character. And during the casting of Animal, he had to make the hard choice to replace Parineeti Chopra with Rashmika Mandanna, saying he couldn't see Gitanjali in her. And he even personally apologized to Parineeti, emphasizing his belief that the film itself always comes first.
I said sorry, nothing is bigger than the film, so I'm taking this decision that I'm going ahead with some other artist.
So what happened? Because Sandeep clearly had Deepika for the role, it all came down to economics.
It was Sandeep's call. One thing was remuneration, second was timings. There are multiple things and she was...
2 commercial deal breakers stated plainly in the podcast. Her team reportedly wanted a 10% cut of the film's net profits on top of her regular fee, and she wasn't willing to shoot more than 6 hours a day on a production of this scale, this scope, with this many moving parts. And this was a narrative that had been circling on the internet when this casting fallout happened last year, along with many other versions of the fallout. Some believable, some outright fake. Multiple independent outlets reported the exact same 2 sticking points, and when Pranay's account and totally independent reporting line up this closely, all this becomes official confirmation. But honestly, the money and the hours weren't even the real issue. The deeper problem, the one that ended things for good, was trust.
So we thought like it was not working. That's where we thought of looking for other options.
Yes.
Once we started looking other options, they started all this. That's where he got pissed off.
According to Pranay in the podcast, confidential story and casting details reportedly leaked to the media and the trail led back to her side. Sandeep didn't take that quietly either. He addressed it publicly at the time, putting down his clarity without holding back any punches, describing it as a breach of the unspoken trust that's supposed to exist between a director and an actor he's personally narrated his story to.
I'm very honest saying this कि कोई unnecessary attack करेगा ना 100% गुस्सा आएगा.
Now here's a question worth sitting with for a second. Why would he let one of the biggest stars in the country walk away rather than bend even a little on money or hours or control? Hold that thought, because once I show you exactly how this guy works later in this video, that decision is going to make complete sense. Second rumor, and this one's been running online for what feels like forever. Don Lee. Pranay confirmed something I wasn't expecting. They considered casting him. This wasn't a rumor the production just ignored and let spiral out of control online. Korean media had been reporting on this potential involvement for months, tying it to a real visit he made to India. And the speculation ran hot enough that fans were actively tagging Sandeep and the production house online, demanding a straight answer. So why did they drop it? Pretty simple, according to Pranay. The story is set in Hyderabad, and they ultimately felt a South Korean character wouldn't sit naturally inside that setting. It's a small, almost obvious reason once you hear it, but it took them this long to kill the rumor for good. Vivek Oberoi's first look as the villain was officially confirmed in late February 2026, but Pranay's confirmation in the podcast is the final closure of the Don Lee speculation. My take here is that it's a nice little window into how closely big productions are watching fan casting theories these days, sometimes closely enough that they will seriously consider acting on one, even if it never happens. Third and final rumor, Prakash Raj. This one's been messy in public for months, so let's walk through the timeline properly. Back in February 2026, reports started circulating that Prakash Raj had already walked out of the film over creative differences with Sandeep Reddy Vanga. Prakash Raj responded to that directly and pretty forcefully, calling the reports toxic fake news and pointing out that shooting for his scenes hadn't even started. For a while, that seemed to settle it, because when the audio teaser for Spirit was released last year, the voice of Prakash Raj was there, so he was indeed part of Spirit. Except weeks later, when the production unveiled Vivek Oberoi's first look poster and tagged the entire cast and crew on social media, Prakash Raj's name was noticeably missing from that list. That absence reignited all the speculation, and outlets like Hindustan Times reported, citing their own sources, that he was really no longer part of the film, even though there was still no official confirmation from the production itself at that point. Now in this podcast, Pranay finally puts it to rest for good. Despite lending his voice to the film's earlier audio teaser, he confirms directly that Prakash Raj has officially exited the project and won't appear in the finished film. So the sequence is exactly what it looks like: a public denial in February, followed by mounting evidence that contradicted it, and now months later, a direct confirmation from someone inside the production. Now here's my take on this, and share your thoughts in the comments as well. Both Sandeep Reddy Vanga and Prakash Raj have their own strict ideologies. Prakash Raj is very vocal outside the cinema screen and has an ideology that cinema should preserve morality, that movies should hold a higher moral bar, and in a Sandeep Reddy Vanga film, that is not possible. Sandeep never narrates the whole story to anyone. Actors only know about their part, and eventually it all comes together on screen, which is why when Adil Hussain saw Kabir Singh, he was shocked to see what the movie was all about. He said publicly in an interview that he regretted being part of that film and was highly embarrassed by it. It's plausible Prakash Raj didn't like either the scenes he was going to do or the morality the movie is presenting. I don't know, I'm just guessing, and even Pranay doesn't get into that level of detail on the podcast. But this podcast is the first time the rumor gets closed out with an actual on-record answer instead of more second-hand reporting. And it doesn't stop there. This podcast also lays out exactly what happens once Spirit wraps. Spirit is locked in for a March 5th, 2027 release, and it's a release bigger in scope than anything the Vanga brothers have attempted before. But here's some context the podcast doesn't fully spell out, and I think it matters a lot for understanding where this duo of brothers stands right now. T-Series has already publicly announced a 3-film partnership with Sandeep: Spirit, a sequel to Animal called Animal Park, and a separate project with Allu Arjun. That's a long-term bet. The total creative control, the willingness to fight publicly with critics and cast members, all of it is already locked in. And the sequencing Pranay lays out is pretty clear too. Once Spirit wraps production, expect roughly a 6-month break before Animal Park moves into full production, which means Ranbir Kapoor finishes Ramayan Part 1 and Part 2, finishes Love and War, and comes straight back in a dual role in Animal Park.
सुनाई दे रहा है, बेरा नहीं हूं मैं।
Speaking of Animal Park, we have to talk about Animal, the success and how the duo handles the criticism that comes with attempting something this big. Pranay clearly stated in the interview that he doesn't let the hate get to him. He credits years spent in a strict hostel, dealing with a lot of ragging, tough living conditions, the whole thing, for building the kind of thick skin that makes internet hate feel small by comparison. His stated philosophy is simple: bad reviews don't stop a movie from succeeding at the box office, so he focuses on the audience instead of the critics.
So how you manage all those bad experiences?
They want to bring it down, they will bring it down. But like end of the day, our work is our PR. Doesn't matter like critics who reviews, but reviews didn't matter for box office success.
That's really more about Pranay's own temperament than anything else. He is the one who stays quiet, who doesn't feel the need to jump in and publicly defend himself when people criticize the films. Sandeep is a different story. He is a lot more vocal, but it's not like he goes looking for fights either. When he is the one being targeted directly, he responds by name on the record.
There's one IAS officer. He runs a coaching institute also, I think, that man. So in a very serious interview, he said that
एनिमल जैसी एक फिल्म हमारे समाज को कम से कम 10 साल पीछे ले जाती है। नहीं बननी चाहिए। कुछ तो सोशल वैल्यू भी होगी या सिर्फ फाइनेंशियल वैल्यू के लिए काम होता है।
the way he sounded, the way he was saying was like literally, मुझे लगा कि कुछ क्रिमिनल काम किया हमने फिल्म बना के।
Both Kabir Singh and Animal have faced serious, sustained criticism for being misogynistic. That's the word that keeps coming up again and again from critics, from journalists, even from politicians. And when that criticism comes at him directly, Sandeep pushes back, dismissing the people making the criticism as a small handful of what he called
15-20 jokers, 15-20 jokers.
His word, not mine, and describing the broader wave of film criticism these days as having gone too far, calling it toxic.
ये फिल्म इतना पेस से आगे बढ़ा है तो रिव्यूज टिक नहीं पाया सामने. The film is an average film because of this dirty reviews. Then the effect will be doubled.
Here's my honest take, and I think it's the real heart of this whole video, so stick with me for a minute. Most production houses, when they get hit with sustained criticism like that, they do damage control. They stay quiet, they let a publicist smooth things over, they wait for the news cycle to move on to the next controversy because that's usually the safest play. The Vanga brothers, especially Sandeep, do the exact opposite consistently across years and across multiple films. They argue back on the record, by name, repeatedly.
फिल्म में जो अच्छे लगने वाली पॉइंट्स अगर समझो 50 है,
अच्छा,
उसमें अगर 20 ही निकले फिल्म में,
तो फिर
this will affect a lot.
Now, is that admirable? Is that conviction in your own work? A refusal to bend just because the internet is loud that week? Or is it something less flattering? A refusal to ever seriously engage with criticism that might have a point buried in it? Honestly, I think there's a real argument on both sides and you don't have to pick just one. But whichever side you land on, you can't call it the safe choice. It's not what a cautious, image-conscious production house does. There's a reason behind that instinct too, and we'll get to that by the end of the video. Despite all that criticism, or maybe partly because of it, Animal became one of the biggest hits in Indian cinema, made on a tight budget of around 100 crores, and it pulled in almost 900 crores globally. That alone makes Animal one of the most important case studies in Indian film history. So we have covered the rumors, the criticism and the money, and now let's get into the one thing that ties every part of this video together: how Sandeep Reddy Vanga works on set, where that instinct came from, and his skill with the camera, which I have hardly covered in any of my previous videos.
The other best thing about Sandeep is like he has control on 4 or 5 departments, which
Editing.
Music he has a good ear on that.
Yes.
Here's my take. Sandeep runs a set the way most directors wouldn't dare to, obsessing over details most people would call small, because he trusts his own process over what's considered normal or comfortable. He listens to feedback, he's not closed off, but at the end of the day, he trusts his own vision over anyone else's.
I don't believe in democratic process in filmmaking. It should be monarchism. It should be one man's show, one man's conviction.
That single trait explains the Deepika decision far better than any headline did. A leak like this isn't a scheduling inconvenience to a guy like this. It's the same instinct that makes him obsess over the smallest details on set. Control is the whole method, and when someone takes a piece of it away from him without his say-so, he does not go quietly. That same instinct shows up behind the camera too. Pranay says his brother isn't just writing and directing his films, he is involved in the photography and the framing on set, working shot by shot instead of stepping back once the camera is rolling, because he's essentially editing the film in his head while he shoots it.
मन में ही उसका एडिट भी चल रहा है, साउंड ट्रैक भी चल रहा है, बिकॉज वो इतना वन हो चुका है.
But here's where that instinct comes from, and it's not something people usually connect to how he runs a set. Pranay says that back when Arjun Reddy got made, he himself was still living in the US, working as a software engineer. He couldn't be on the ground in Hyderabad day to day, so on that film, Sandeep wasn't only the director, he was basically doing his brother's job too, making producer level calls on set because there was nobody else there to make them. So by the time he had real money, a full crew and a brother who could show up in person, that instinct never went away. He had already spent his first film doing everyone's job at once. Whether you love his films or can't stand them, believe me when I say this, I don't think there's a way to argue with the word fearless after hearing all of this. The obsessive control that traces back to his very first film, the refusal to ever back down publicly from critics or from a cast member who spoke out, and the willingness to let one of the biggest actresses in the country walk away entirely rather than on compromise even slightly on the vision or the control, that is Sandeep Reddy Vanga.
You're goddamn right.
That is my take on this recent podcast of Pranay Reddy Vanga. Subscribe if you haven't already and check out my video on the evolution of Devdas' character right here. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.